Wicked. Brrr. Nathan. How you doing, my man?
Hey, good brother. How are you?
I am good. Yeah, feeling good. I feel like this summertime is just keeps on going, and I'm loving that heat.
It's not going to stop. Feels like
That global warming. Are you up to date on all the science and all that sort of stuff? The
I I would be lying if I said I was. No, I'm not.
Well, I'm just like reaping the benefits.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not up on the science. I'm not the person to talk to about the science of all of that, but it's
Well, so everyone's freaking out, and you're just loving the sunshine.
oh, the polar ice caps are melting, and the polar bears are standing on blocks of ice. They got nowhere to live, and I'm like, well, shit is. I'm
And,
tropical. Yeah, I'm tropical.
and this motherfucker's sunbathing in his speedos.
Pretty much, man. Pretty much. Loving that. Yeah, vitamin D's.
But Melbourne gets that icy wind, man.
Oh, that Arctic tundra, that breeze.
Do not miss that winter mornings down in Melbourne.
It's also you get the when it's northerly as well. You get the desert breeze as well when you get the northerly wind. So
It's a good place to be.
for every negative, there's a positive. I actually love the fact that we have that kind of messed up weather down here because I feel that there would be about 15 million people living in Melbourne if we had the Brisbane like weather.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of people are moving to Melbourne, but they probably get a taste of it. Spend a year down there, go, can't do this shit.
One winter and I'm out. And you've been based up that way. You said you were down here for some time.
Yeah, yeah. I'm up here, and then we needed a change. Uh, my fiancee Mirette and I just decided to pack it up and move and get some new stuff. Been in the same place for 30 years.
Yeah,
I thought it was about time to do some traveling.
yeah, nice. Well, how did you get into it? Or just do a quick intro for the people who don't know who you are. Like, tell us a little bit about where you're coming from. What you're up to in the world.
Um, yeah, I'm basically a guy that loves to get around people and help people to feel happy. And I do that because I spent a lot of my life very unhappy, and did a lot of work to get to the point to understand myself enough to and build the character through kind of some difficult times to figure it out. So that's what I love doing. That's what I do. I work as an emotional mastery coach. So I help people to understand and tap into the true power of their emotions and unlock you know unlock the lessons from the past that are really trapped by their emotions. I see a lot of people who are totally at the mercy of overwhelming emotions on a daily basis, and I see them struggling, and I see them asking for help. So yeah, I'm spreading the message, man. Spreading the message.
Yeah, man. And what got you into that? You said you spent a bunch of time unhappy and like not having such a great time, and then I imagine that led you into I don't know researching, studying, finding seeking,
Yeah,
finding. I imagine some sort of support networks or people or mentors or guides or whoever it might have been, books.
that's right. That's right.
And from there, what did you find, and how did you start turning it around, and then to the point where now you're on the other side of the coin, I guess.
Yeah, man, you just said it. You just said it all. No, man, look, I was living um, a life where I kind of, even from a child, I never really felt like I fit in. Uh, So something a little bit different. And to deal with that difference, or the feeling that I wasn't, that I couldn't fit in, I turned to food. I mean, a lot of people turn to food these days because it's right there. So that was my thing. That was my drug of choice. And, you know, by the time I was 18, I was 250 kilos. So at 18 years old, it's like, all right, yeah, either I keep going this way or I just eat my. I made the decision.
Again, it's either I just what?
Yeah, man, it's either I keep doing what I'm doing. The window of opportunity opened up, which was to step through and face my shit and make a change, or turn away and put my head back in the sand and keep doing what I was doing. And I chose to put my head back in the sand. And I chose that over and over and over and over again. I had weight loss surgery, which I thought was going to be the magic pill, which turned out to do nothing but physically prevent me from doing the thing that I'd always done to deal with my emotions. So I ate my way through the surgery, and my mental health declined rapidly. You know, ended up hating the world and hating everybody in the world, and resenting everybody in my life, and blaming everybody for the shit that I was in. And it manifested in all sorts of horrible ways. You know, I had a bulging disc in my lower back that caused my whole left leg to go numb. I couldn't really walk anymore. In 2009, this is 4 years after having surgery. I still weighed about 190 kilos, but now I couldn't walk, and I was taking the strongest painkillers that I could convince every doctor in my area to give me. And yeah, man, it all kind of crashed down at that point, and that window opened up again, and I thought, okay, do or die. Like, either I do something now or this is it. And I chose to do something. Took the responsibility on, stopped blaming others, stopped blaming myself, and just started to do the work. So my journey really started with physical. And that's all it was, man. There was no...
Just the one out, like, you decided that? Was it like, oh, I'm going to do this 90-day challenge, or is it going to, like, was it, I'm going to walk every day? Was your legs still numb? Could you walk? Did you have to swim, ride? Like, what was the...
Yeah. So, no, my leg, my back was fucked. I didn't know that I could do any exercise. I was lying on the floor of the neurosurgeon's office. My mum had taken me in, and he was like, we're going to have to fuse your spine together. And he's like, there's a 50% chance that it's going to take you 6 months to learn to walk again. There's a 20% chance that you're never going to walk again. Right. And there's a 40% chance, 30% chance that nothing's going to change. And I was like, yeah, sign me up. Right.
Yeah, give it to me.
So I had blamed the weight loss surgeon, and now this guy told me this. I was like, let's do it. And he said, there's only one problem, man. You're 15 kilos too heavy. I won't put you under. You're over the weight limit. And I was like, fuck you. Like, motherfucker, you're supposed to be the one fixing me. I can't walk right now. You're telling me I have to lose 15 kilos before you'll do the thing that will allow me to walk. That's how I'm going to lose 15 kilos. So what do you want me to do? And I was furious, man, furious. And I looked up at my mom, who'd taken me in, and she was just sobbing and, like, bawling her eyes out. And I was like, fuck, like, the pain of it all had never hit me because it was my pain. But I didn't realize that I was inflicting pain, and I was hurting the people that I love. And I saw, man, like, my family was being torn apart because of the worry that they had about me, because they didn't know how to help me. You know, my sister would burst into tears every time she saw me, come give me a hug, and I felt nothing until that moment. So I was like, all right, let's do it. And the very next thing I did was sign up to a 4-week, it was basically a fat camp. It was a fat camp. It was a weight loss retreat where I learned, it was like exercise every day, hours of exercise, all the food taken care of, stayed there, you know, for 4 weeks, meditation, Tai Chi, swimming, the full deal, right?
What was it like in terms of like the hunger or the appetite? Like, were you just like constantly eating? You know, to get up to those kind of weights, you need to be eating quite a lot, I imagine. Not eating too much. Like, what was the appetite like? Or what was the eating habits like to get there, and also to, you know, then to have that the weight loss as well?
When I look back, man, like if I said to you, "Hey, man, I want you to put on 130, 140 kilos," could you imagine the amount of work you'd have to put in? Like, I put in work to get there.
It's effort, man.
It's effort, man. I couldn't do that now. Like, you could pay me $1 million. I don't think I could do it. Like, I would have to go against every human instinct that I have to continue to eat and stuff my face the way that I did to get there. So I must have been living in some dreamland, man. Total unconsciousness. You know, total numbness. Really, it was just total numbness. It was about numbing those emotions. And, you know, God, I don't know how it happened. I don't know how it happened because it doesn't physically make sense to me now. And that was my body. I lived it. I can't remember the pain of it because we're funny that way. We don't really remember pain, right? Once it's gone, it's gone. That's why women can have more than one child, right? But no, I said that's why women can have more than one child, because we don't remember pain.
Yeah.
So we might cut out for a couple of seconds here now and then. If we do, I'll just stop talking and wait till it comes back, so we won't miss anything. I don't know why that is, by the way, but yeah, if we're talking about the amount of food, it was anything and everything on massive scales. I couldn't tell you how many calories I was eating per day, but I once figured out, I went back and looked at what I would eat in the morning before school. When I was in high school and when I had my own money, I would go into school and the canteen would be open. And I think I calculated something like 3,500 calories before the bell rang, which was like chocolate milk, cheese and bacon rolls, sausage roll, meat pies, you know, whatever I could get my hands on.
What's that, like a daily, like recommended for a daily, right?
A daily is like 2,000, man. So we're blowing well past that, and the day hasn't even started. So that was on the daily. It was probably, you know, as a kid at that age, 17, you know, it was probably getting towards $50 a day on just school food at school, and then coming home and eating. So I've got a beautiful family. Dad's Italian and Mum's Spanish Filipino. And dude, everyone just loved to feed me. They loved to feed me from the beginning. You know, I was a little chubby, big, happy baby. So, yeah, man, I just got a taste for it. So I was eating a lot. I was eating a lot all day, well into the night, and moving zero. So, yeah, it was a downward spiral. It was pretty bad.
And then the turnaround there, you said you went to this camp, was 4 weeks. What were some of the main principles or core kind of transmissions that you received from there?
Oh man, I learned everything from there. Kind of everything that I knew about nutrition and food, stuff that I'd never heard before. Basic things, you know, about carbohydrates and sugars. Just like fundamental core aspects of physiology. and it was just all physical. What I learned most was how to do things when I didn't want to do them. I had to get up early, and really by that point, my mind had really ticked over, had really clicked. And I remember a moment during that kind of camp where I really had what I call like an identity up. So I was just saying, I had at a certain point in that camp, I had what I talk about now as an identity upgrade. And it was really this step into that first one was I am an athlete. Like I started to think about that for the first time. But it's funny, I've got video of all this. Like I took video of it because the thing that I did, and I think the thing that shifted everything for me is what I teach now, is I was writing, along with a couple of mates, I was writing short film scripts.
Yeah.
And we sat down and wrote a short film script called Magic Pill, which was about a story about a guy who was overweight and, couldn't get a girl, hated his job and all that stuff. He stumbles across a magic pill, takes it, wakes up the next morning, and he's lost all this weight. And he gets out of bed and looks himself in the mirror and goes, holy shit. And the story really was about what next? Like, how does someone deal with that type of rapid transformation? And I obsessed over this script, man. I got right into it, and went out, bought a camera, and we filmed the first half. We filmed all the bits, of me at my size. And I said, all right, I'm going to go now. I'm going to lose all this weight, and in a year, I'm going to come back. We're going to film the rest of the scenes. So it's really going to be like a transformation in the short film. And that's what I did. What I did. So I filmed the whole thing, and man, just it was just a massive physical Everest that I went for.
So you just went all in. What was the like you said, all in, it was Everest. So what can you specify some of the the actual shifts, changes? Did you have like limits on your calorie intake per day? Did you have movement goals per day or week, or like what was some of the specifics of it all?
I got obsessed, man. Got obsessed.
So you're just like reading everything you can, applying, implementing, or were you more like, all right, I'm just going to follow this one thing for some time? Like, because I know that can be.
I found mentors.
It can be confusing, you know what I mean? It could be like, oh, there's all these things, the overwhelm can come. It's got, all right, I want to go build a website. So you get like 100 different people rather than just focusing on the one. All right, let's just follow this until completion.
No, brother, that's all distraction.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're getting overwhelmed with all the things that you feel like you have to do. You just don't want it.
Yeah.
Not yet. You're not ready.
Yeah.
At that point where it's do or die, it's like, fuck it. Let's do it. So yeah, I was reading everything. I was reading Men's Health every week, but I also had a personal trainer. And I was just doing the work. I was getting up at 5:30 every morning. I was training, and it became my entire focus. And I changed my whole environment as well. Like, I quit my job. I went and got a job at a health food store, hanging around naturopaths and sports supplements, and then I trained to become certified as a personal trainer. Became a personal trainer so I could live in the gym. Built a lifestyle around it. Started seeing clients. So it just became my life. Became my passion, and it was how I developed. It was really how I developed a purpose for myself.
Yeah, nice. And that was all. What did the family think? Because like they're not allowed to feed you as much anymore. Like, what was they're like?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it, bro? Like, I had to get out. Had to get out. So I did. Part of the shifts were leaving home, getting out, getting my own place, making some money of my own and making my own decisions. A lot of resentment came towards my parents. That has been the majority of the work that I've done after the physical transformation. But at that time, I just had to get away. I had to get away. You know, there was a lot of blame still on them for putting me in this situation. So that was all part of the shift in environment. I had to shift everything. Yeah.
And there was some, you said some mentors, or were there some key players in that transformation that were supportive, or were there some key kind of challenging people as well that, you know, family was one? Were there some people trying to keep you in the, like, oh, I want you to stay the same, if you know what I mean? Or like, you know, not want you to break out of or transform?
Yeah, no more than myself.
Yeah.
No one more than myself. Yeah. I've had the incredible privilege of being supported through my whole life. The only thing that made me feel not supported was myself, was the stuff that I was doing. So my family's always been supportive. They may not have understood it, and it may have at that time been a sacrifice in our connection. But there were certain things like, you know, there were certain people in my life who say things like, you know, just because you've lost weight, it doesn't mean that you have to change as a person. Like, you've changed so much. You're not the same person we used to know. And I was like, yeah, no shit, motherfucker. Like, of course, everything's changed. And I say that to people as well who are looking to make these big changes in their life. It's like, if you're not willing to have everything change, then nothing will.
Yeah.
You know, just that willingness to have everything as it is fall away. Yeah.
Yeah. Then you're not actually ready or willing.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Right. Are you like, I guess, what's your specialty, I guess, that, you know, that you love to work with? So I know you mentioned before you like people to be happy and to have a better experience of life, and that's what you love doing. Is there any kind of specific, do you like working with the physical side? Do you like working with the emotional side? Do you like working with relationship side? Like, you know, maybe it's like business side. Are there specific areas you love working with more than others, or you just kind of love it?
Yeah. So as I was going through my own stages, they're the stages that I was working through. There's a lot more to the story. I mean, the physical part was just one part, and what I started was as a personal trainer helping people in the physical, because it's all I could access. That's the only work that I'd done. So I was helping people physical, but at that point, man, like, I had an incredible judgment towards overweight people who were struggling with their weight. You know, like, they would come to me for help, say, hey, can you help me? I know you've done this before. Can you help me? And I say, yeah. But in here, there was, and I'm being really honest here, you know, something that would come up that would say, I can't help you. You're beyond help. You're a fat, lazy so-and-so. You know, you just got to do the work. All of these things. There was this level of disconnect that I realized later was all self-judgment, all self-judgment that I hadn't looked at. So I was not very good at helping people at that time, surprisingly. You know, as soon as you judge someone, you lose all ability to influence them. And I was doing that. So I realized later that the personal training was more for me than for the clients. And that was a hard pill to swallow, because I'd always thought of myself as a very kind, a very giving person. But I realized that, man, at that time, everything was wrapped up in this unconsciousness, because I hadn't done any of the work. I hadn't done any mental mindset work. I'd done mindset work because that's what's required to make that change, but I'd done no emotional work. I was still a volcano inside me. So as I moved on from that, started to do more of the emotional work, that's where I found my passion start to come alive. And I'd lost 130 kilos, but it wasn't enough. So I'm like, what else do I have to do? Because at that point, then I was chasing Instagram likes, and I was like, you know, and
Was that from your like your transformation? Did you have like a transformational kind of Instagram?
no, I never created like a transformation page, but I really wanted to. I wanted to have the greatest before and after picture anyone had ever seen, and it poisoned me. Like, it truly poisoned me. So yeah, man, there's a lot to it, but I connected with my girlfriend, well, my fiancee, but my girlfriend at the time in 2014. We had met way back at uni when I was like almost 200 kilos. We were great friends, and we'd been friends for years. And she was like the girl of my dreams, like sexy, gorgeous, amazing. It was like the one that was like, wow. But I cut it all off because, you know, I was like, this girl's out of my league, and all of those things. Anyway, we reconnected again after like 5 years of not seeing each other, after I'd lost 130 kilos, had all these muscles, had all the thing, you know, had the swag, everything. And things were just different, man, like electricity, because it was just power shift, boom. And we got into it, and, you know, we tried to pretend we were just friends for a year, and all of that good stuff. But we finally got together in a relationship, and I'm like, holy shit, I've got everything that I've ever wanted, man. Like, I'm the fat guy in the friend zone that's made the leap. Now I've got the girl of my dreams, the body that I've always wanted. You know, I've got a business, I'm working with people, money coming in, I'm on top of the world. Still wasn't enough. Still wasn't enough. Why aren't I happy? Why am I still searching for something? And that search for validation led me down a real dark path, and actually led me to the point where I cheated on Mirette. And this is where it kind of, where the story shifts, because at that point I got hit with a truck. That emotion, something so powerful hit me, pierced all the armor, all the bullshit, all the walls, everything came crumbling down, because that feeling of, holy shit, I've just done something that I've always said I would never, ever do, that I've never done before, that has never even crossed my mind, that I didn't think I was capable of. And now nothing will ever be the same. I cannot have the type of relationship I wanted now because of what I've just done. And that fucking hit me, man. It floored me. And I remember feeling that guilt at a level that I'd never been able to feel it before, because of how much I'd numbed myself. So, man, the window opened up, the opportunity, you know, the window opened up, the opportunity for me to step through and kind of say, all right, something's not going right, time to change, time to come clean, time to really step up. And I didn't fucking step through the window. I turned away again, man. I took all that emotion, I stuffed it down again, pushed it deep inside.
Not with food, like what was the method this time?
Self-sabotage, man. It was food as well, right? It was food. That was always there. It's been a constant, man. It's a constant struggle, still here now. I just, you know, but it was, my business started to run into the ground. The relationship started to plummet. No communication. And it had kind of opened the doorway to these emotions that I had to work extra hard to push down. And dude, when you push emotions down, and I'd been doing it for a long time, you flatline everything. So I couldn't feel joy. I couldn't feel, you know, excitement. I would look at a baby and feel nothing, you know. It was starting to really freak me out. I couldn't get in touch with anything. And because of that thing that was inside me, I couldn't communicate because I couldn't open up for fear that she would see something and it would cause me to let something out of the bag. And this process, made me realize that I'd actually been lying all my life, like in every sense of the word, lying to myself, lying in the way that I was presenting myself to the world, lying in the creation of this reputation or ego that I'd built from nothing to try and protect myself, but also actually lying, compulsively lying. And I had created this web of lies that was very hard to maintain, took a lot of energy to maintain. And that started to really scare me. So she one time she sat down and asked me if I could help clean up around the house a little bit more. I hadn't been pulling my weight, right? And I remember the emotion coming up and the feeling of inadequacy, the feeling of not being good enough, the feeling like I was a failure, and I couldn't express any of it. So I was just silent, just staring at her with nothing, no words. I don't know if you've ever felt that before.
Yeah, it's like there's a bunch of like you don't know what you're feeling or how to articulate the feeling. So there's nothing might come out.
Nothing, numbness. And I think a lot of women have that experience with men, and I hear it a lot because we do couples work now where they're just saying, I'm just getting nothing. I'm just getting nothing back. Like I'm sharing, I'm expressing. Can you help me to teach me? They say, can you help me, teach me some way to communicate that'll help him open up? And I still don't know the answer to that because for me, it only came from realizing that inside me. So that was the beginning of looking at emotions and understanding the role they played. But at that point, I couldn't name emotions. I didn't know what they were. I couldn't separate them. I pretty much only knew good or bad, really.
I can relate to that as well. That was kind of the pre-spiral. Like, I don't know if you know about the spiral.
Yeah, I'm hearing more about it.
But that before pre-spiral, which was 2012, 13, I would have been doing the spiral, finished in 2014. So all of 2013, I was going through the process. But pre that, it was only, I knew and could articulate anyway, angry. I knew when I was angry because it would happen like twice a year because I'd bottle it all up and then it would come out once or twice a year. And it was probably those once or twice a year that I actually knew it was anger. Before it was, I didn't know what it was, so I bottled it up or I didn't like the feeling of it. I knew when I was hungry. That was another thing I knew. I could articulate. I knew when I was tired. I couldn't differentiate between tired and exhausted and slightly fatigued, but I knew tired. I knew horny. That was about it. That was the spectrum of emotions that I could articulate. That I could go, okay, this is what I'm feeling, and I could express it. And then post-spiral, it wasn't necessarily an intention, but the spiral is a process of clearing emotions, of clearing emotional triggers, emotional conditionings, which run on the subconscious or under the surface level of consciousness. That then we act out in ways that we think we should do or that we're conditioned to, because that's how we've always done it and that's how we've survived, right? And as a result of clearing these emotions, starting with the dogma, the guilt, the shame, the heavier emotions, the fear, the paralyzed will, all this stuff, and then moving up into kind of the joy, the enlightenment, the higher emotions that are more up higher, I guess, as opposed to lower. But as a result, like throughout that year, I was finding myself, someone would say, hey, how you doing? Or how you feeling? And I'd be like, well, I'm kind of feeling really remorseful right now, or I'm feeling spiteful, or, I'm feeling kind of like, abandoned mixed with kind of resentful, or, like I could really have this palette or this spectrum of emotions that I've never, and I realized, I'm like, hang on, I've never found myself speaking like this or being able to articulate emotions in such a way. And the benefit in terms of relationships and just myself having a better experience, or just a more like full experience of life, it was just huge. You know, it's like I'd highly recommend people get, you know, starting to develop and cultivate a language and an ability to articulate and feel into and be able to be present with whatever they're feeling, because it just makes, especially relationships, you know, between self and other, makes the relationship so that we have much more fruitful, much more lively, much more colorful, and you can feel, and you can actually then move to where you want. Knowing where you are allows you to move to where you want to get to, right?
Yeah, we unless we have a word for it, we don't know it's there. Like we really can only feel the things we have words for. Mirette's Egyptian, so she speaks Arabic, and one of the things I realized is that when we look at people who speak different languages, the Arabic language is expansive. It's constantly growing. They have unbelievable prose and poetry, and they can express things that someone who only speaks English can't possibly comprehend.
Yeah.
Right, with the beauty of their language. And I was realizing that she would say things, or her family would say things, and then she would turn to me to try and explain it, and she wouldn't be able to explain it.
Yeah.
And I was starting to think, like, how can there be something that you've just said that you can't explain to me? What does that mean? Because that means then you're experiencing something that I can't experience. So then it started to get me to wonder, like, people who are speaking multiple languages, because English, of course, is getting smaller all the time. Like, we're fucking using emojis now, right? Like, it's getting smaller, not bigger, not more expansive. We always seem to want to get it as small as possible. So I wonder, like, okay, well, if language identifies the reality that you're living in, and someone who speaks one language can have an experience that they can't possibly explain to someone who speaks another language, what does that mean for each individual experience of the world? Like, you know, it makes me think even more that we're all experiencing this world totally differently. And that goes to emotions as well. Right? Like, if you can't express the emotions that you're feeling, and most of us know anger, but anger is so strong that that the other emotions hide underneath it and within it. So, you know, someone explodes with anger or rage, that oftentimes underneath it there's sadness and there's fear.
It could be sadness, anxiety, frustration.
Yeah, all these different levels. And, you know, in the work that I do, I always start by clearing out anger, because it kind of opens the floodgates, right? And someone will clear out anger and they say, I don't feel anything. I say, yeah, you've done a really good job of pushing it down. I don't feel anything. And then, like, once you clear the anger, the next step, and it's so funny, I see it over and over again with clients, you know, I clear anger. They're very skeptical, particularly with men. I clear it. I say, I didn't feel anything. I didn't connect with it. I don't know what the fuck this is. What the fuck's going on? This is bullshit, right? And I'm like, aha, there it is, right? And it'll turn from that into, I just don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know. Like, this is just too much. I want to stop. I don't want to do this anymore. I just feel like I have to go, and I don't know. I just want to go. I got to go. I got to go. I got to go. And then they'll start crying. And I'll say, what are you feeling now? I don't know what the fuck this is, blah, 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 right? So so after I clear anger, the next one to go is often sadness. And I always do those two together, because they're so linked. And I never want to clear anger and then leave someone with sadness, because, you know, anger will cause us to hurt others, and sadness will cause us to hurt ourselves, do things to hurt ourselves. So want to clear those two out. But yeah, it's interesting how they all file underneath each other.
It is fascinating. And in terms of like I guess, utilizing some of these experiences that you've had with clients or with yourself, are there, I'm constantly thinking as I'm speaking or presenting or having these conversations, I'm like, so how can the audience utilize this in their lives? Like, how can they start applying like this concepts, these principles practically into their lives? Like, what are some actions that you'd recommend, or that you'd suggest, or that you'd like to bring to people's minds as a possibility of trying out, as a result of some of your learnings or some of the learnings you've witnessed in others?
And that's because we sometimes tend to just say, well, the only way to release the emotions is to come see me, right? Or come book a session in. But really, it's hard for me to answer, because I really did, for me, this all started with pain. Like I said, a big moment, a catalyst of total pain that led to me taking further actions. So then I picked up a book and I read it. I think the first book I read was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I think. And then I actually got a business coach who was supposed to help me build my PT business. But turns out she was a wizard, right? And we didn't talk about business at all. And by the end of that year, I wasn't a personal trainer anymore. And working with her as a life coach, which is what she turned out to be, because you're not going to work on your business unless you've done this work first. So I went from personal trainers into coach, who started to get me to think about this stuff. And then I started meditating. And meditation was probably the medicine that I kind of relied on heavily, because that thing that was inside me, the guilt, that action that I had done, that was still inside me, the only way that I could get to it, the only way that I could get it to come up, to face it, was through meditation, or smoking weed, which I did as well. Yeah, together, right? I began to kind of smoke weed kind of ritualistically, in terms of using it to tap into my body and to emotions, and to bring up some of this stuff. But it wasn't pleasant. We talk about it being recreational. Well, if you're using it right, it's not a whole lot of fun. Right? Because it brings you face to face with, they say meditation done right is like a head-on collision with your biggest fears, because that's what it's going to bring up. And along with, psychedelics or any type of consciousness expanding drugs, marijuana, it was what allowed that all to bubble up. And what came with it was a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, a lot of sadness, a lot of guilt, all of that stuff. And it was overwhelming. But I faced it, sat with it, meditated it on it, and journaled a lot of it out to try and get in touch with it. But I always ended up being able to put it back in its box, right? And really what I was doing was arguing against having to tell Mirette that I had cheated on her.
Yeah.
Because the reality of that was way beyond anything I could imagine, because I knew what it was going to do to her. So I always managed to be able to put it back in after I was done looking at it. But the arguments, they were getting saying that those arguments with myself, they were getting longer and harder to win. They were getting longer and harder to win until eventually it came up and I argued with it and I thought I'd put it away and it came back and then I realized, oh shit, I've got nothing left. And it all hit me in that moment that it was no longer about saving the relationship. It was no longer about making sure that she saw me in any certain way or that we would be able to heal this relationship. It was about saving my soul, you know. It was about coming clean, not to Mirette, not to mum and dad or people, not even to myself, but coming clean to the universe.
Yeah.
Right. For everything. And I burst into tears, broke down into tears and cried forever because I was fucking terrified. But at the same time, I was comforted because I knew that I could handle any consequence that came of it. I knew that I could handle any consequence, and I knew that it was necessary for my evolution. And I also knew that she was strong enough to handle it. I knew it all in this moment. I knew that she could handle it. And then I saw our relationship and the vision for our relationship so clearly through it all that it gave me the strength to be able to do it. And at that point, it felt like I had a hand grenade. I pulled the pin and, I was about to drop it at our feet. And it's kind of like, all right, I know where we're going to be. But to get there, we're gonna fucking strap in, you know. And I could talk, I could talk about it now like that. And I don't mean to make light of a situation, but we've talked about this a lot. Like we've understood this a lot. So this is what we talk about with our clients and couples, who are facing a similar situation. Which is a fucking lot of people, by the way.
Yeah, way more than you'd think. A lot of people think, oh, it's whatever it is, whatever challenge, whatever struggle, whatever experience that is kind of tough or not fun. A lot of people are thinking, oh, no one's going to understand, or no one would know what it's like. As soon as you start sharing, because this is something in whether it's the group work I do or the in person, if I'm running a class or a session where there's lots of people in it, and we'll get together and we'll share the experiences of what was being experienced. You'd be so surprised. Everyone's so surprised of, oh, I was feeling exactly the same thing, or I experienced exactly the same thing, or I can relate to that completely. And it's not often that we're sharing so vulnerably, openly. So, in a space that is kind of safe, that no one's going to be sharing your stuff outside of that space. So I believe that creating those spaces where we can share that vulnerably, honestly, openly, completely, is super helpful. It's super helpful for that. Oh, actually, I'm no different to you, or, what I feel. And especially if you feel that your thing is like really epic, and then someone else shares, oh, my thing is not epic at all. This person's going through some really tough stuff, Definitely helpful for that.
Yeah, it's so true. You get a room of 1,000 people together and you say, someone stands up, I got a problem with money, financial problems causing me so much stress. You're like, hey, just give me a sec. Like, is anyone else feeling like stressed with money or have felt that in their life? Boom, 100%. It's like, take a look around. You're not fucking unique.
Yeah.
Like, our problems are not unique. They're collective, right? But so's love, so's happiness. It's all right there for us,
100%. And for you, I guess, are there some core messages that keep coming through? Like, do you find yourself repeating? Do you have one-on-one sessions with people? Do you have, regular kind of, I guess it's principles or, you know, ideas that you find yourself sharing over and over again?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course.
And what are the key or the core ones, like the top few or whatever?
We do a lot of work with couples as well now, as I said, and we're able to do that because we take a couple who's struggling, and I thoroughly, you know, I believe that the process that we went through, Mirette and I, is essential for any couple, any relationship. And what I mean by that is, at some point, you have to let go of the attachment to the image of the relationship that you're currently holding. Right now, whenever you got together into this relationship, you were different people and you've changed. So a lot of people are attached to an image of the other person from God knows how long ago, attached to an image of themselves, and then attached to an image of a relationship that doesn't exist anymore. And the suffering comes from holding on to that image and creating expectations around it based on that old image. So until you can really understand that, and really I'm talking about relationships, but this is also for individuals, that you need to be willing and open to let that old version of yourself burn.
Mm.
And this is, I guess, what we talk when we talk about ego death. Now, I don't know a lot about ego death, but it's a term that resonates with me when I think about what I had to do, which was to come clean about everything, to allow the statue that I had built, that I was parading around, that I named Nathan Meola, to be torn down.
Mm.
And to be willing to stare at the rubble, and we both had to do that simultaneously, at the rubble of the relationship, because there was also a relationship statue that we'd built.
Mm.
Right? To tear it all down and then look at what's left and then decide if we want to be with each other, to actually choose. So I think that's that a lot of people get caught up in the relationship and ride this wave of emotion that we like to call love that I think has been misunderstood.
And it's also, I believe, welcoming those ego deaths, you know, like oftentimes people might go through them, you know, it might be adolescence, for instance, or it might be turning 21, becoming an adult, or midlife, you know, like changing careers, or it might be having a divorce or something like this that, you know, we have a few times, maybe 4 or 5 times by the time we're 40 or 50 years old. These ego deaths, these transformations, these periods of time where we're totally not who we believed we were or built ourselves up to be. And we've totally got to, like you said, burn that down, that identity down, and become someone else, or like reinvent who we are, or redecide who it is that we are going to be. And this work, doing work, like I mentioned, the spiral, whatever it might be, the work you guys do, doing a workshop, doing a program, doing a 4-week, you know, fat camp, doing it, whatever it might be. All of these are opportunities for those ego deaths, you know, and I believe more and more that we're welcoming that work, you know, feeling the fear, doing it anyway, you know, having those beginning with the end in mind regularly, you know, these kind of different concepts that you have. I guess the more and more you can do that, to the point where, because I'm teaching mindfulness, I'm you know, Qigong instructor, so I'm always about the mindfulness and the breath, you know. So even in the very moment, each inhale that we're taking is an inspiration. It's a filling up of life. It's a expanding. If you imagine you're breathing in, you're filling yourself up with life, essentially. And then when you're exhaling, it's also expanding, but it's also letting go and releasing and dying, expiring. So coming into those ego deaths in each and every breath, and making it a habit that each moment that it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off, it's ones and zeros, is an ego death. And you don't have to, like, you can fill up with life and presence, but then also expire and die in each moment as well. Making that a habit makes these ego deaths, these transformations, feel way less of a big deal, if you know what I mean. It's just like, okay, cool. I am what I am, and I am that I am in each and every moment, and I'm also not any of it in each and every moment as well. Is a really helpful kind of habit to get into.
Yeah, I guess it's understanding impermanence, right? That nothing lasts. That everything will be turning to dust at some point. So, yeah, that was really interesting what you said about that, because, you know, in a relationship, you have to be willing to choose each other, you know, not just once when you get married or when you ask them to go on a date with you, but every moment, not every second, but every moment. And you have to be willing to the slate clean, wipe the slate clean, because a person can only be who we treat them to be, or who we treat them as. You know what I mean? So if we're treating someone based on the behaviors and actions of the past, then we're not giving them the opportunity to expand and come alive into their full potential. Whereas if we truly see through all of that, right down deep, beneath all the layers and all the beliefs and all the behaviors and muck and actions, then that's when you find that we're all the same, and that's where you can connect. And this is absolutely vital to not just in an intimate relationship, but for any relationship, for your kids.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And it's funny you mentioned that Magic Pill is the name of the book as well, or the short film. Was it a short film or full length? What was it?
It was a short film.
Yeah, it's a short film, like, yeah. Magic Pill. I look at Qigong or mindfulness practice as the magic pill. You know, you mentioned meditation earlier. It's like that for me is the closest thing to a magic pill that I've ever found. If you want a quick, like, ability to enhance your experience or gain mastery over your experience, or have some sort of like you're in control, like you actually have the control rather than it just happening to you, then start practicing mindfulness or meditation, because there's nothing that I've seen that can enhance discipline, self-discipline, self-awareness, the ability to paint your experience as it goes better than mindfulness or, you know, that meditation practice.
And what an incredible moment when the flick switches, and you go, oh shit, I've got control here. Like, yeah, meditation is really, it's a medicine. It really is.
100%. And just for, because I know we're going to wrap up shortly. Like, what's upcoming for you? What's exciting you? What are you working on? What's the year ahead? What's happening for you in the future that it's coming up?
Man, this is really exciting. I'm doing a lot more men's work. So I'm going down next weekend to Melbourne to speak at Island of Men, which is going to be great. I'll be talking about my 5 pillars of purpose.
5 PP.
5 PP. And then I'm headed to New York in April to speak on stage in New York. And I'll be talking about the process of journey and again, about magic pills, about the becoming obsessed with the journey and not the outcome. And that's kind of where my space is at the moment.
What's the event in New York? Where and when?
The event's in Brooklyn, April 13th, and it's a it's being run by one of my mentors, Andrew Eggleton, who is a presenting mentor. So
we've had him on this podcast. I think it's one of the episodes that got lost in the ether, so I have to have another chat with him again. He's a speaking guy, right? He's we had him on, but it's again one of those episodes that got lost in the ether. So we'll have to have a retouch base with him. He's a legend.
Yeah, he's a legend. So I'm on his stage, sharing the stage with him. So totally honored, and man, it's just big. Speaking in New York is like one of those things where you think, that could never happen. So
that's amazing.
I'm just excited to do it and then see what comes from it. And that's really the year for me. Just continuing to run online stuff, work with couples, and just doing the work, touching people one at a time, and groups. Yeah,
awesome. Are you got a, like, is it Instagram, is it Facebook? Where can people find you mostly?
Yeah, I do a lot of work on Facebook. A lot of work on Facebook. So just Nathan Meola on Facebook. Reach out. It's all there. But yeah.
Thank you for your time, brother. It's an epic journey that you share with us, and thanks for doing the work. And it seems like you're doing some amazing work, and living it and breathing, not just talking about it, but actually being it as well. I appreciate that a lot. As I feel that, especially coming from like the martial background, it's the qigong, the kung fu, and all of this. It's all about direct transmission. So even BJJ, if your coach is that high level guy, which my coaches are, then you get that direct transmission, and you don't necessarily even have to talk about it. Just being in the space of someone, you can really feel and get that transmission. So yeah, I appreciate you doing the work, and look forward to maybe occupying a stage or something together.
Yeah, man.
I feel we've both been invited to similar events, so definitely.
Yeah, man, for sure. I look forward to it. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate you. Appreciate everything that you do, because you're doing the work to spread and share the message. So much love to you, man. Thank you very much.
Blessing, man, and thanks for tuning in, guys. Until next time, keep the flow growing and the growth flowing.